Hello there. In this video, I'm going to try and answer a question that I keep getting asked, and that is, how the hell do you extract 2D drawings from a non-rectilinear form? Or in this case, organic form, I guess, is how you would call it. And honestly, the answer to that is you kind of do the same steps as for a rectilinear form with some extra spice added to it. So I'll just try to show you that extra spice in this video. We will be extracting a plan drawing and a section. And the section is not going to be aligned with X, Y, or Z axes, but rather it's going to be like an angled section, you know, a weird angle, just to spice things up a bit. Okay, so let's get started. We will begin with a plan drawing, right? So this is the shape that we have, and a building that we have, and I've modeled out this building with sub-D during the live streams. If you haven't seen those, check them out. Was pretty fun to do. And I will be using this as my kind of test bench, right? So the first thing is we will be creating a clipping plane. Just a clipping plane anywhere on the screen, just like so. Perfect. And the clipping plane is set to be at 0, 0, 0, or the height of the clipping plane right now is set to be at 0. So I am going to register that as my, for my plan, that is going to be my 0 height, right? 0 millimeters in altitude. So now for the first plan, I want to cut my building just above the windowsill, right? So usually you do like 1.1 meters, something like that, above the floor plate. So 1,100 millimeters, something like that. But the problem with that is that my floors here are not, they're not that flat, right? So there's no real kind of anchoring point for me to choose, right? So 1.1 meters doesn't really work. I will add maybe 1 more meter, something like that. So 2.1 meters. Unconventional building requires unconventional clipping plane height, I guess. And I'll add even 100 more millimeters. So in total, we have 2.2 meters for our cut height. And that seems to be giving us enough information inside of here to kind of get a pretty decent plan out of it. So I'm going to go to the top view. And here in the top view, you can see that my clipping plane is not cutting anything, right? So I need to select my clipping plane, go to properties here, and make sure that top is tick marked. Once it's tick marked, then you will see it being cut, right? So clipping plane cuts every view separately, and you can choose which views are being cut by the current clipping plane and which views are not being cut. So I'll select this whole thing, including the furniture, everything. That whole thing. I'll just make 2D. So make 2D will ask me a few things. Here, these are the settings that I usually use. Sometimes I like to turn on the scene silhouette to get the outline of my form, but in this case, I don't really care about the silhouette, so I will not be using that. And then for the layer name, I use, plan and at what height was it cut. So 2,200 millimeters. I could even write right? Millimeters. Actually, let's just do 2,200. Hit OK. And then we wait for this to calculate. There we go. So it took a bit of time to do, but 224 seconds. But where do we have it? There it is. By the way, if you don't see your plan being generated, just make sure that clipping plane is not clipping away your generated plan. I have students who constantly get that problem. Anyway, stuff that we see here. So the red lines, I believe, are our clipping plane intersection. So this is where stuff is actually being cut through. And the black lines are just projections, right? Projection curves. So as you can see, all of our information that we have in the background or on the floor, on the floor, all of the geometry information is not there, right? There's a few lines here and there, but nothing that we could use or nothing that we could consider a drawing. So we will need to come back in here and actually extract more information from it. And that's what I call, additional spices that we need to make this whole thing work. So I'm going to select this form, and just like for any other, any landscape, let's say, let's treat the ground, the floor, as a landscape, right? So just like for any landscape, I will select it and I will contour it. Base point. Let's say it doesn't really matter from where, just anywhere below the building and higher up, like that. And then distance between contours, I will choose something like 100 millimeters, right? And just give it a little bit of time. Once this is done, and now it's reached above the clipping plane, so I'll just hit escape to stop it. Once this is done, I will make sure to select the curves, right? Select the contour lines that we have, and I'll probably group them, just in case, right? Group them, that, and we will be using make2d on them, right? So that is going to be our second layer that is going to be added. Or sorry, I accidentally grouped the, god damn it, ungroup. I accidentally grouped the plan together with the contour lines. So that is going to be our second layer of information that is added on top of our plan to make it nice. So I just select the curves, I select the shape, I don't need the furniture anymore, and I use make2d again. You do need to use, and yeah, sure, just hit OK. You do need to use the contour lines together with the form, together with the form of the building, so that the building form obstructs the contour lines that are below it from showing up in your 2D drawing, right? So it's going to kind of help us out a little bit in determining which contour lines actually should be shown in the plan and which contour lines should be hidden because they are behind the wall or something like that, right? So that is why we make2d the contour lines together with the form. It's going to create a few issues for us, for sure, but it's much easier to fix those issues rather than trying to determine which contour line, is useful and which one is not. Now let's give it a few minutes and then we will continue. There it is. There it is. And as you can see right now here, from here, we get quite a few additional contour lines. Not all of them are necessary, by the way, but we can use them on our 2D drawing, or sorry, on our initial plan drawing, and get a pretty nice additional level of detail. So just to do that, I will be selecting only the contour lines, like that, and this one as well, and we want these guys right here. I'm just kind of going through this. I probably want these two as well. You can see that they are breaking apart, right? There are contour lines that are being missed. But I don't think that's a huge problem because we are just using them for visual clarity, not for information. If it was done for information, I would be doing it in a much more, let's say, controlled way. So I think that is that. No, we don't need this. And I will just take these, group these. Just make sure to group. Move from, and we need to find the point from which we're going to move. So I'm just going to probably use this midpoint right here because it's quite dominant in this particular line. So it's going to be easy to find the same midpoint on this line right here. Bam. And that is that. We get our contour lines right here, right? And all that is left to do is clean everything up. And the cleaning process is quite easy, but very kind of taxing. It takes a long time, right? That's basically it. So I'm going to actually, I'll probably keep it for last, right? We will do the cleaning last because right now I still want to show you the section and how I would approach the section, right? And once we have both of the drawings in here, then we'll clean them. So for the section, let me just delete the clipping plane. Let's decide on what kind of angle we'll use for this section, right? Where our section is going to be located. So as I said before, we will not be using X or Y, or this is X and this is Y, angles. We will be using something at, a weird angle, something like this probably. And for that, I kind of want to find something to anchor myself to. There is not much. Let's try in perspective view. Let me just try and find some sort of a line that I could use. I think this line will do the trick. So there we go. This direction that I just drew is going to be a direction for our section. Let me just position it here and let's just scale it up 100 times, just so that we're clear about where we're going to be cutting through. And now I'm just going to probably cut through the stairs, right? You always cut through the stairs. And at this point, we're done. We're done in determining where our curve is going to be. I'll just project it to the C-plane just to make sure that it's flat. Let's take a look in perspective view. There we go. There it is. Looks perfect. Great. So now I'm going to just extrude it up like that. You can either use extrude or you can just, when you use the gumball, there is this kind of for every arrow, there is this kind of small bubble. If you drag on that bubble, it extrudes. So now we have ourselves a rectangle, right? A rectangle that cuts through where we want to have this section located. Next step is to actually create a clipping plane for it, right? So I'll type in clipping plane, but before I start drawing it, I will choose to use 3-point clipping plane, 3-point. And then I'll find my rectangle that I spent time modeling, and I'll find its bottom left corner. Click on that. That's our start of the clipping plane. Then I describe the X coordinate. Shit, I missed it. Let's try again. 3 points from here. X coordinate goes along here, and Y coordinate goes up. So it's basically 3 clicks, right? Once we're done with those, we don't need the rectangle anymore. We can delete that, and we can just take the clipping plane and move it closer to the building, but it doesn't snap for some reason. Okay. If you have issues with snapping the clipping plane properly, just turn off the clipping of it for a bit, and then you'll be able to move it and snap it without any issues whatsoever. So I'll just move it somewhere closer by. Oops. From here to here. I think that's fine. So that's our clipping plane. Now, if I turn it on, there is no view in which I will see an accurate projection of what this clipping plane actually sees, right? Like from the angle of this clipping plane. I need to create that view. And to do that, I need to create a C-plane first. A C-plane is called the construction plane. So in these tabs, the second one is called C-planes. First one is standard, second one is C-planes. I'll go to C-planes, and here I'll choose set C-plane by 3 points. And it's going to be drawn exactly like we just drew a clipping plane. So 3 points. First point is bottom left, then bottom right, and then top. Come on. Okay. We're having issues with snapping again. So again, I'm going to select the clipping plane, turn off the snapping, and try once more. C-plane, 3 points. Bottom left is the origin, bottom right, and then top left. You can see that this little C-plane has been created now here, right? Which means that we are going to be able to look at it directly as a plan of that C-plane. That's great for us. So I'm going to select the clipping plane now. And it's weird to have clipping plane and C-plane in the same tutorial because, it seems like it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. When I say clipping plane, I mean clipping plane. When I say C-plane, I mean construction plane, right? Two different things. So for the clipping plane, I will turn on the perspective clipping, right? And then to actually look at the projection of it, under C-planes, I'll find the one, it's not under C-planes, it's under set view. I'll find the one that says plan view of C-plane, or you can just type in plan. That works as well. A command plan. But I will just be clicking on this icon right here. Bam. And now we have, even though it says perspective here, this is not a perspective view. This is an orthographic view of our of our clipping plane. It's parallel with our clipping plane. Let's say it like that. So now it's the same procedure, honestly, but since we know that we will be needing additional information for this building to actually showcase the niceness of it, the curvilinear forms, and to actually describe the curvilinear forms, we can do the contouring already so that we don't need to do make 2D twice. So I'll select the form. I'll go to probably the top view. Well, our top view right now is also, the same, the same view right here. So let's just see which one can we use. Maybe this. This perspective view seems fine. It's not being used. So I'll just select it. I'll type in contour. And here I am not going to be very precise about it. I could be, but I'll probably just do it in a very loose manner, right? Something like that. Just describing an angle of the contours in a very loose way. And here, every 100 millimeters, sure, let's keep it as every 10 centimeters we get a contour. Enter, and it's doing a weird thing now. I think I messed up. Wait, let's try that again. Contour from here. Don't snap to anything, please. Or let's just go to set view, top. This will make sure that we are in control. From here to here, every 100 millimeters. Are you working? Yes, you are. You can see from left to right, it's doing its thing. Let me pause the video just for a second to have it finish. There we go. So just like it did with the previous one, I stopped it right after it crossed our clipping plane line, right? So because we don't want to wait that long. And now, here, we are ready to make a section make 2D because you can see the curves right here. I actually should probably just make a new layer. Just make a new layer real quick and call it contours. That is not how caps lock works, but whatever. Change object layer and I'll just make it blue just so that you can see better. There we go. So now we can see all of the contours and what kind of a shading they will produce. I think that, that's a nice information. It's, again, nothing accurate, but it's something that will definitely show up nicely in your drawings. So I'm just going to select everything except the clipping plane. You don't want to select the clipping plane. You don't want to have that show up in your drawing, right? I'll type in make 2D. Make 2D. Layer name, section, A-A, A-A. Clipping plane intersection, CS group. Nothing else needs to be changed here. Or actually, let's just do AA like that. Okay. And then give it a hot minute to make its calculations. Okay, looks like it's done. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it's gonna look like. Here we have the top view, and do we like it? There's a lot of things that were messed up here, and a lot of things that I will need to clean up and fix. But I think we do like it. Oh, come on, stop. There we go. I do think we like it. Let's change this, the colors up a bit. Yeah, so you can see that Rhino does make mistakes, and quite a few wherever it has these kind of issues. And I don't know how to make them work. The only way as to how to fix these things, the way I know, is by using blend curve, honestly, and just going to town at it, right? It seems like it's gonna take way too long, but actually it's not that bad. You can see that with blend curve, I can quite quickly fill in the gaps. The problem is that in some places the gaps are so large that you have no idea where they should be connected, right? What connects to what? So that's basically most of the cleaning up is going to be done that way. Second part is going to be actually hatching in and working with the geometry. With stuff that is solid versus stuff that is not solid, but that is more like graphics. But yeah, the most of the cleaning up is just going to be trying to make this work. For instance, something like this, I would probably revisit this and see if there is an alternative way of how to showcase this ceiling, because here there's nothing that I can do with this, right? While here, this is quite nice. This looks quite well. So again, a lot of stuff. I will pause the video here, just because I don't want to waste too much time in showing you the whole process. Or maybe I will not pause the video, but rather I will speed it up, just so that you can see me going through this and then cleaning as much as I can. So let's go. And there it is. So here I've spent, I don't know, like 2-3 hours on the section and 40 minutes, 30 minutes on the plan. And this is how they look like right now. And all of the tools that I've been using have been between two curves, blend curves, trim. That's it. Nothing more, right? So you just spend time, right, on it and clean it up. Nothing too fancy. You can still see that there are mistakes here, but considering that we are not going to be plotting this out at that scale where those things will be shown, it doesn't bother me. So this is what we have. In terms of the plan, I just marked out where the section line is, and also just separated the contour lines as well as the, let's say, medium line thickness geometries into separate layers. Right? From now on, I will skip the plan and we will be talking about the section just to focus up a little bit more. So my section has 4 layers. As you can't see actually in the bottom. Let me minimize that. Now you can see it. 4 layers. As the clipping plane intersections, that's where stuff is being cut through, right? Then it has the curves layer. Basically, I should probably just rename this to not curves, but rather, oops, that's my bad. Not curves, but rather contour lines. Wonderful spelling. But contour lines, that's the green one. Hatch, that's the black one. And medium. Medium is basically, let me just hide the hatch and the contour line so that you can see what we're dealing with. That's the medium layer. I'm missing one. I should probably get that line. Whatever. There's a bunch there. We don't care that much. Anyway, so this is my section. And actually, the way it is right now without the hatch, I kind of like it more than with the hatch. So I'm even thinking about just having it like so, right? So now what we need to do is change up the line types and the thicknesses of the lines, right? So honestly, for the line types, I don't really need to change anything. All of these are going to be continuous lines. But for the thicknesses, wherever I have clipping plane intersections, my thickness, print width, should be pretty damn thick. And it really depends on what kind of paper size or what kind of scale you're going to be using. Here, I'm using A2 paper size. I've already kind of drawn out a rectangle, that's A2, and I scaled it up by 50, meaning that the scale of this drawing is going to be 1:50 on an A2 sized paper. So 0.5 line thickness is a little bit too thin for this particular scale. I would go for 0.8 or maybe even 1 millimeter. Let's try 0.8 at first. Something like that. Then for the print width, that is this rhombus here, I would change this to black. Now for our contour lines, that's the tricky part, right? This is where we need to kind of think about it. they need to be really thin, right? Because we have so many of them. And also their color, I wouldn't go for pure black. I will probably go for dark gray. Maybe. For now, honestly, let's go for pure black. And if that doesn't look good, then I will have that option to switch it back to dark gray. So for the thickness of them, I will do 0.09 millimeters. I did some tests with my printer, and it seems like anything lower than 0.09 millimeters on my particular printer will not print properly. So 0.09 millimeters for me is the thinnest I can go. There we go. Then for the hatch, don't really care. Honestly, we're just using solid hatches, so we really don't care. And in this case, I'm not even using any hatches. And for the medium line, I will go for something in between 0.8 and 0.09, right? So let's go for 0.35 or 0.3 maybe. At 3.5, let's go for that. And for the color, we of course change it to black as well. And that's it. We have this set up and ready to print. All I need to do is use Ctrl P or just type in print in the command line. Wait for it to load up. You might not see this. You do need to set it, right? But let's just go through the settings here. I'm using Adobe PDF as my plotting out solution, and I am going to be using A2 sized paper, right? So those two are already set. Landscape format, always use vector output. And here, output color, we didn't change the display color, right? It's still being displayed as green, blue, and red, right? So instead of display color, you choose print color and use the print, right? Use it to print, sorry. And then for view and output scale, I will just use a window and set it from this point here to from bottom left to top right point, right? Like that. It will ask you if you would like to change scale to fit the window area. Yeah, sure, whatever. We will be making sure that the scale is correct. But I just hit enter and then scroll down here a bit until I see the scale, right? What's the scale? And it says here 1 to 50.022. So I'll just delete that and make sure that it's just 1 to 50. Besides that, there's nothing more that I need to change here. Everything is kind of in order. So I'll just hit print. We just save this, so I'll overwrite that one. I already made some tests, of course. Overwrite that one. And the thing is that once we plot this out and we open it up with Adobe Acrobat, this is not going to be true to scale, right? The line thicknesses are not going to be accurate, right? That's because Adobe Acrobat likes to scale up the lines so that or rather not scale up the lines, but it always will keep the line thickness true to what was described in the Rhino file, no matter how far you are zoomed out. So these lines will always be 0.8 millimeters. These lines will always be 0.09 millimeters. And the frames, for instance, will always be 0.35 millimeters, right? So depending on how much I've zoomed in, it's going to change the proportion, right? Or the intensity of the lines. So what we need to do, well, first of all, we can just look at it with 100% zoom ratio, and then you will indeed see the correct proportion, right? Correct difference between the lines. Or alternatively, you can just simply load it into Photoshop. Let me just find it. You just drag and drop it into Photoshop, and it's going to ask you a few questions. So you want to make sure that it's media box, not bounding box, but media box. In doing so, you keep it as A2 size, right? The original size, media box. And then resolution 300 pixels per inch is fine. Just make sure that mode is RGB color, or if you're not using any colors, then you just use grayscale. I will be using RGB just because. It's okay. It's going to load in. Just wait for a second, and this right now here is going to have accurate line thicknesses. So if I just create a white background, white backdrop behind it, like that, and I'll just merge these two. Why not? There's layers. This drawing right now does indeed have accurate thicknesses as what we have described, and this is exactly how it would be printing out. And I think it's pretty close to being a decent drawing. I mean, if this took me 3 hours, then I would say then in 2 more hours, so in 5 hours in total, I would be completely done with this section, which is, for an architectural project, that's reasonable. That's like half of a workday, right? Workday? Yes, half of a workday. Sometimes I get confused. You can also check out how it would look like inverted. I think these kind of forms look pretty neat inverted. Why not? But that is basically it, right? The approach to creating sections from or any kind of drawing from an organic form is very, very similar as approaches that you do with a rectilinear form or rectilinear architecture. The only difference is that you use supplementary material, like additional helping material, such as these contour lines, or you could render out a section render and push it behind the line work to to specify the curvature of the spaces that you're working with. Actually, here I am thinking of. Can we just do this? All right, this is. I just want to test it out. Meh. Doesn't look that great. Maybe if we do something like that. Yeah. Sorry, just needed to get that out of my system. So as long as you have enough information, enough graphics that talk about how space is bending and how geometry is curving, you will be good. It's the approach, again, is very similar. I'll stop blabbing now. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.